Hi, Marlon. How are you doing? Marlon, are you there? Hi, Marlon. There you
I'm
go.
here.
There you go. Okay, great stuff. Let me just kill my other pic. Um, just get rid of that. Okay. Here we go. There we go. There we go. Marlon, it's sure good to have you. Um,
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you,
trying
Brother
to
Terry.
just trying to get two screens going here, but don't seem to be winning. Let's see if I do that. Okay, we can live with that for now. Okay, Marlon, so glad to have you. Um,
Thank you.
been wanting to do this for a little while now, just to get the voice on, the Durban voice, the Durban voice
Yes.
in Joburg, should I say? Marlon, come talk to us. We go way back, way back. You are in the past at the moment. Talk to us a bit about where you are and what you're doing in that part of the country.
Currently, I'm in Centurion, South Africa. We're busy with church planting through the Evangelical Bible Church. And we've been at it for a number of years. And we are currently meeting at the Scouts Hall in Irene. And some of the folk in our church that have joined our church have decided to do something very unique and very special for the church as a whole. We've seen over the years the great discouragement, a lot of the problems, difficulties that pastors are having, as well as what people are going through. And the late Dr. Matham, in his dissertation, spoke about the need for premillennialists, those who believe in the return of Christ, to understand the nature of the spiritual kingdom that exists now. And I think it was a cry before many people had seen that, and of course he spoke of it as a need for us to do something that would make a difference in the lives of people in a practical way. We can always look at the future. We're going to heaven, how lovely it's going to be one day. And but between now and then, what do? We have so many problems and difficulties. So some of the folk in our church have been thinking about this issue for a long time. And this is not, as it were, the church's thing, but individuals that God has spoken to and brought us together in a wonderful way in Centurion. And we've decided to form what we call the Shepherd's Institute.
Okay,
And
now let's
this
stop right
is
there. Let's stop right there.
right.
Shepherd's Institute. Okay, so this rises out of a need that you guys have sensed amongst people and leaders. Can you
Yes.
articulate specifically now what that need is, what that need was that inspired this idea, and how this thing continued to take shape into the present?
Indeed, when you think about some of the struggles we are having, they don't just start with leadership. They end up in the homes. And when you think about leadership, we're hoping to see, when it comes to the finances, that pastors, that's the one thing pastors, I think, globally struggle with. Of course, there's the issue that they have of loneliness, where they may be in some far-flung place, and they feel so discouraged. There may be, politics in the church is something that's rampant. And I don't know, since COVID, there's been a tendency for so much discouragement amongst pastors. And one of the things that I think is at the core of many of our issues is a discipleship model that does not lead to transformation. You know, we've been high on information, giving people information, learn these verses, attend these 10 lessons, understand all these theological terms. And we think if they do that, then this is a disciple now. But of course, a disciple, a follower of Christ, is one who becomes like Christ. There's a model that is so needed for the church that can lead to transformation. Of course, many pastors, and I'm one of them, are struggling with some of these digital tools that we have today. You know, just connecting to a meeting oftentimes can be an issue. And then, you know, we see
be a be
so
a
many
great challenge. Be a great challenge to your sanctification. Okay.
indeed. And personally, for me, one of the struggles I have is the distractions that are out there. There's so many things that distract us as pastors from doing what we should do. And of course, there's always the leadership issues in the church. And those are some of the problems that we found, which ultimately lead to the difficulties we see in the disciples. And when we think about the church, my understanding is the basic cellular form of the church is the home. And if the homes are not right, of course, you're going to have issues in the church. And we would like to see a leadership shift, a leadership, not just leadership, but a leadership whereby we get the pastors to be able to get the men in their church and the leaders in their church and the homes where there can be a leader leading in the homes, whether even if it's just a single mother, but there needs to be some form of leadership so that we can get that transformation beginning in the disciples of Christ, which ultimately would help the pastor. So we are there to provide the resources and backup to assist pastors in this particular situation we are finding ourselves in globally, with so many pastors, you know, really, really discouraged.
Well, Marlon, I love your shift back to the home. Let's talk about that a
Yes,
little, because I remember years ago, Howie Hendricks wrote a book entitled Heaven Help the Home. Heaven exclamation mark. Help the home. Because really, if we look at the South African landscape, I think there's no debate almost on the issue that households, families, I mean, are decimated generally across, the spectrum, the racial spectrum. Uh, talk to us a little more about that passion that you have, because you see a connection, a vital connect, not a disconnect, a vital connect between home and leadership. Talk to us a bit
yes.
about that.
Well, let me start by saying, you know, one of the things that we're focusing on is God's original plan. And God's plan, of course, original plan is found in Genesis 1, 2, 3. And of course, the passages that follow, of course, everything in the Bible is based on that. And we have found there's so many who have ignored, even among certain evangelicals, so many have changed what God's original plan is. And when you think about it, just the fact of the home, the marriage, there's the purpose of marriage is unity. And of course, there's that idea of God calling a man and a woman together to form the home, and all of the concepts that surround that: be fruitful and multiply. The fact that God has given us dominion, and not the dominionism that we are seeing today in certain areas, but the fact that God has given to us the opportunity and the means by which we can have the presence of God for God, to do great things for God in this earth. Now, because of that, because people have failed to understand the critical nature of God's original plan and his intention for the home, we have seen the breakdown in families, and we have seen the breakdown of homes, communities. In our country, single mother, single parenthood, teenage pregnancy, young people growing up without a male figure, young boys living angry because they have no discipline, they have no love and acceptance, and the world offers them everything that they cannot find in their home, which is, of course, a corrupt version, a wicked version. As a
Mm.
result of that, when they come into the church, many of these same struggles are just brought into the church. But our hope, our desire is that we can get two things nailed down in the homes. It is number one, we would like to see the kingdom of God established in the home. In other words, God is the one who's ruling and reigning. Whether it is a mother who's single, whether she is a girl who's just taking care of a child, she's living alone, whether it's a dad, whether it's a blended family, whether it's anybody, we would like to reestablish and see in the homes of the people, where they would make the commitment and the surrender to God, where they would allow God to have the rule and reign in the home, where no longer the devil is leading, but the Lord is the one who is leading in the home.
Wow,
And
Marlon,
of course,
I just love that. I just love that emphasis that you are making there to bring the home back, uh, the centrality of the home as the social construct that needs to be set straight, because you are aware that the statistic in this country given is that more than over 50% of our young people are growing up in single parent families. The flip side of which is what you were saying, no role model,
yes,
no head of the home. Even within the African context, that's that idea that, if the brother dies, a brother in the family will take over that home. But the thing is, to provide that solid leadership that is needed, more than 50% don't have that, which tells you and I that we are in absolute crisis, aren't we? And your emphasis then on bringing that social construct closer to the center of what leadership is about, of what family living is about, of what cohesion in the culture is all about. I just
indeed.
love that emphasis. What would you say are just one or two of the greatest challenges as you look at that kind of modality, bringing the family more and more toward the center? One or two of the biggest challenges or the greatest challenges you see or foresee in your developing of the model that you want to see?
The greatest challenges I see are twofold. One is submission. Submission, not to people, not to some person, some pastor, some bishop or so forth, but submission again. By that I mean coming under, and the willingness to surrender completely to God and his word and what he would have us to do. Because we are sinful people, that is the one thing we will rebel against, our stubborn nature. We do not, we want to do our own thing. We want to do it my way. I don't want to do it as God said. I know better.
Mm,
And the struggle is for people to submit, and not to people, not to someone, but to God and his word, because he is God,
mm,
and we dwell in his presence, and so we would submit to his will and to his word. And the other one is accountability, where we are willing to be accountable, not so that we can be what did you do type of thing, where we can be condemned and be kept under control. No, so that we can grow, so that we can develop, and we can form what God would have again in the family. So that is at the heart, the challenge that we have, I think, on every level of society. And I think that can only be addressed when we understand that whether we are in a private space, whether we are in our home life, whether we are in our community where we live, or the city that we live in, we have to understand that God, when we are there, God is living in us. And because God is in us, we have the ability then to do something for Him. And that's where we allow the Lord to have rule and reign over us.
Absolutely, absolutely, Marlon. Marlon, we're going to wind down here because we are going to come up with another episode next week where we want you to talk to us about more and more what that school looks like, what that space looks like, because an institute would
Yes,
be a learning space. I would love
yes,
to uh, 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 fire more questions at you and how you are involved in the community and other communities that you are pulling together. So I want to
yes.
thank you for your time this morning. We're going to give it to the folk in bite-sized chunks, it's like how you eat the
Wonderful.
elephant. How do you eat a big elephant? One bite at a time. So, Marlon,
Amen.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to close out our time and we're going to encourage listeners to join in again next week at the same time in this space where we'll have Pastor Marlin Sanders talking to us further about the Shepherd's Institute and what that looks like, what that means for him and the community he's busy with. So, Marlon, thank you for your time and
Thank
trust
you
that you
so
will
much.
have a good rest of the day. You're
Thank you
welcome,
so
Alan.
much.
You're
God
welcome.
bless you. All the
Thank
best to the
you.
listeners and viewers. Have a wonderful day.
Great. Super.
Bye bye.